Hi, I'm Karen Sutherland from Edible Eden Design, and today we're going to look at pruning feijoas. And these are just regular feijoas, not a special named cultivar. I have a named cultivar in the back garden, which probably interacts with this one through the bees. But these 5 are just Feijoa sellowiana. And they were, in the day, planted as an espalier or a natural espalier, but pruned very flat and trained very flat along the fence. However, if you move around here, you'll see that some of them, with the weight of the branches and the fruit, have come out, and you can see that a few of them are sort of poked out away from the fence. The other thing is that they got very big and thick and too big for the space that they were originally trained into as the plant matured. And so I made a decision to try a different form of pruning or training called pleaching, which you could also call a bit of a plant mullet. So it's clean, it's short at the bottom, or very cleaned up at the bottom, and all the action is at the top. Actually, it's probably a reverse mullet because all the action's at the top. So more like a mohawk. However, its official plant terminology is pleaching. And now, after 1 year or so after pruning to put them into this shape, as you can see from a previous video, to get them into this shape, the tops have grown quite a lot. They grew into the neighbours. We've pruned that back now because people don't always like things hanging over their fences, blah, 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 yada. And so now we're going to take them back. We're going to try and correct some of this. So these branches that are coming right out, I'm going to prune back to one of these bumpy areas, which most people who know about gardening, new beginners may not know that that's a node. Even, nodes can be something as small as where the leaves come out on a stem, but they are also these big lumpy areas on the feijoa where you've seen branches come out before, so that they're nodes as well. But I'm going to choose this one because even though it's a long way down, it's quite close to the fence line, and I want it to sit back a lot further. So we're going to take this not in just one big chunk, we'll take it in sections so that it doesn't have a risk of ripping the branch. So we'll reduce the weight first, or reduce the load, and then take that down gradually. So we're going to do some big things like that. And the top will be pruned down probably by nearly 50%, nearly a half, to keep it at a good height. And then we'll make some decisions about some of the deadwood, or clean up some of the deadwood that's in there. And if the plants become too bulky, because it can be a bit unstable moving around in the wind and bang into the fence quite a lot when it gets too big and heavy with the fruit on it. And so we'll cut it right back. And the added benefit is that feijoas love being pruned hard, and they fruit quite well. And I'm always pruning mine really hard, as Josh gets into this as well, pruning the one at the back too. And they love it, and they fruit really well. So let's get into that. And then these are the tools we're going to use to prune these feijoas. Secateurs, but instead of regular secateurs, I've got rolling handle secateurs. These ones are Felco 12. Now you'd have to look it up. I have a feeling they're definitely right-handed rolling secateurs for right-handed people. I'm not sure now whether they're ones for small hands, because I've got quite small hands. Anyway, they're one of the right-handed rolling secateurs. These take about a day of pruning use to get used to, but they just roll as you're pruning, and it takes all this pressure off your wrist. And for someone who did a lot of fruit tree pruning in the day by hand, not using machinery, it was invaluable. We're also going to use, and don't look too closely, these are very old, but these are the long-handled secateurs, or parrot beak, also called parrot beak because they look like a parrot secateurs. So these are really handy, and they're great for reaching nice long branches, and the length gives them a bit more leverage. And I'll also be using the mini chainsaw. This is one of the best things ever. So to prepare this for work, I've already put the battery in, but you just pop the battery in, you take off the guard, and you can see that probably should take the battery out to check that. Just make sure the chain's moving, yes. And now we put a bit of oil on the, oops, a bit awkward to do one-handed. we put a bit of oil on the chain. Never use it without doing this because the chain gets quite dry. And then we just run that a little bit and then put a bit more on. Make sure we've covered all the areas of the chain. There's some oh, there's the poodle having an asthma attack. Poor old poodle. Poodle. Dear me. Take the safety switch off. We can also check here to see how much battery's left. We've got a reasonable amount of battery. So there is a holster for this, but it's quite heavy and it tends to pull your pants off. So probably won't use that too much today. You can just sit it on the ground too, out of the way. So for instance, this one here, I'll just give a little demo, but we'll put it on to speeding up because it's too slow. So as I mentioned, we're going to cut this one back to here. What we do is reduce the load. That means that we're taking some of this weight off. Oh, that's one thing we're missing is safety glasses. See, it doesn't even want to do that. Okay, so that's too hard. It's if I push it any harder, I will make a big notch, or I'll distort the blade or distend it, and then I'll have to get a flat blade file and clean it up. So I will go get some clear glasses and we will start this process. With safety glasses, especially when you're looking up and you might get sawdust in your eyes, we're going to cut this branch back to here. But the first thing we do is we have to reduce the load. So that requires us to cut back the top pieces. Watch out, videographer. They're not terribly heavy. Otherwise you should be a bit more careful about them dropping on you, but they're quite small. A bit wild, but... And then we're going to work our way down to this. So we're going to hold this here because we don't want it to rip. It's beautiful stable wood. That would be nice firewood too. We're nearly there. Bit of an operation for the Feijoa. And now we're going to do the last cut. And we stayed away from the fence because I didn't want the chain hitting that. So that's a nice clean cut on an angle, so any moisture and rain runs away, and the plant can seal over quite nicely. And as the regrowths come, I will be training those back to the fence and hope to regain the shape of this plant. Here we are again, attempting to show you the undercut method again. Normally you reduce a bit of the top, but just take some, oh, that wasn't really much, was it? Can't see through my fogged up glasses. So we cut about, we're going to cut this branch down eventually to here, maybe to here. I think here's pretty good because then it's veering out from there. So we'll go above that point, cut through, meant to be about a third, that's a bit more. And then the cut above, yes, it did it. It didn't fall because it was trapped in the other branches. So that can happen and jam your saw. But luckily for me, it got held. It didn't fall as expected, but the branch came down, and what you're left with is this little stepped version that then you go through and cut, keeping your branch stable where you want it. And you get a nice cut that hasn't ripped the bark in any way, because it can tear down the trunk or the branch and cause damage to your tree or plant.